Welcome to our Rethinking Work Series. We are delighted to have you with us. I'm Anna Tavis, Chair of the Human Capital Management Department at NYU School of Professional Studies. And I am absolutely thrilled to welcome today John Horton of Hogan Assessments. We are going to learn so much about how to be better humans, which is definitely a challenge these days when we have so much technology attacking us every day. And so I think the work of Hogan Assessments, which I will tell you a little bit more about how I got there, and then John, give the mic to you. But first, I want to welcome all the attendees. Please remember that this session is being recorded and you're all going to get the materials, and it will be posted on our YouTube channel, available to all. We also want to encourage you to put your questions in the Q&A tab, and in the chat, do let us know where you're calling from and just a glimpse as to who you are and what brings you here, just a little bit in a couple of words, so that we know who is in the room. But without further ado, John, welcome to the Rethinking Work Series at NYU.
Thank you so much. I am so excited to be here. Presenting at NYU. Oh my gosh, what a dream.
I
So
know.
really excited.
And you're based in Tulsa. I'm a
Yeah,
big fan. I'm a big fan. Just visited your headquarters and I was very, very impressed meeting with your colleagues in
yeah,
Tulsa. And as you know, NYU has now a campus in Tulsa, Oklahoma as well. And so I hope
correct.
that this relationship is going to grow not only, because we do rely on your science in our classrooms. We also have certification partnership where participants through NYU, and we'll tell you more about it, get a really favorable um, terms, as well as an amazing community going through the certification process. I myself have been certified 3 times because you need to kind of refresh as the science gets updated. So it's an incredible experience. Um, and John, I will ask you to say a few words about your new role, but I will start out by just sharing that Hogan Assessments is really a leading, globally leading firm in personality-based assessments and leadership development. It is really grounded in socioanalytic theory and founded by Dr. Robert Hogan in 1987. So you do have some seniority in this space. And it was the first firm, as far as I know, to scientifically prove that personality predicts job performance. I think this is a really important point. And today's conversation, we're going to be focused on reputation, how others perceive us, rather than just how we perceive ourselves. And John, tell us a little bit about yourself since you've been
Yeah.
with the firm for quite some time.
Yeah, thank you, Octavius. I started about 10 years ago at Hogan, fresh out of graduate school, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and not really understanding the world of work, but very, very interested in it. So I started with the Independent Consultants Network, which I see a lot of clients on the line as attendees. Hello, all. Good to see you. But I've been with the Independent Consultants Network for 10 years now. And this is a network that's about 6 or 7 thousand, mostly executive coaches that all use the Hogan assessments. So I've had thousands of calls with thousands of clients getting to talk with them about their leaders. I mean, some of the top leaders in the world, all over the world, talking with them about their Hogan profiles, about the problems that they're facing, and helping these coaches solve these problems with them. So I feel very, very blessed, very honored. Great to have this opportunity to work at Hogan. I've recently shifted roles though to a senior designer community and practitioner engagement. So I'll be sort of on a back end creative role now, creating materials for people like you all on the call who are Hogan certified and want to learn more.
Yeah, and your community is global. I'm a big fan of the podcast that Hogan broadcasts regularly because you can learn so much just as I'm commuting to work and back from
Hmm.
work about what makes us human, as I mentioned.
Yeah.
Um, so, John, let's start with the definition.
Yeah.
Speaking about reputation, we're all uh, concerned about our reputations, for better or worse. So, speaking about identity and reputation, what's the difference?
Yeah.
How does Hogan distinguish between those two?
Absolutely. So there's basically two different definitions of personality, and they largely mirror the way that personality assessments are created and validated. That's interesting to me and other psychometricians and psychologists and stuff. But without getting too much into it, the the way that the assessments are created, you essentially get two different definitions of personality. You get one definition of personality that we're most familiar with as a society, as a culture, which is the me that I think I am, the or for you all listening, the you that you know. I am extroverted. Why do you say that? Well, I talk a lot. Okay, cool. That's a self-referential thing, right? It's something that we see ourselves doing. The other view of personality, which stems from socioanalytic theory, which is the theory that the Hogan assessments were sort of born out of, the that definition is the of personality is the you that others know. Okay, the you that others can verify. And there's a lot of advantages per the name of this talk, right? There's a lot of advantages that reputation can provide you outside of identity. Now, if we zoom out a little bit more broadly from the identity and reputation view, what you actually get is the definition of personality, which is the stable individual characteristics or stable individual differences that we bring with us across most situations. So that's how I would answer that.
Amazing. So, how, I'm very much into Stoics these days because we need to be Stoic to survive, to be resilient, et cetera, et cetera. And some of that philosophy tells us to disregard the opinions of others, right? How
Hmm.
do you reconcile kind of the psychological need for a reputational advantage out there in our jobs and our lives overall with the cultural push for authentic self?
Yeah, such a fun question to think about. So the authentic self, we can think of that in a few different ways, right? It's like who am I really? And what all that entails is probably your own motivations, what you want out of the situation, what your behavior is, your behavioral patterns are via personality, and then what sort type of situation that you're in. Now, there are some strict sort of Hogan-based psychologist, maybe like Dr. Hogan, that says your authentic self is a myth. That really what it is just selfishness, and it's all focused on you and whatnot, and that you really should reject your authentic self. And I think in coaching, we take a slightly different view on that, where we say, okay, well, we can't just completely ignore identity, we can't completely ignore the authentic self. And in fact, there's a lot of benefits to the authentic self. If we take something like one of our derailing tendencies, like boldness, for instance, bold is one of our scales on one of our assessments in its good form, it's fearlessness. So you think of like, when do you need fearlessness? Well, when there's weak leadership, when people are scared, when you don't know what to do, but someone's got to charge forward. We hear military leaders talk about this all the time. They prefer action over inaction. So that if you're your authentic self in that regard and you're bold, like, okay, that can be a good thing. Then if you consider the downsides of it, if we take the Aristotelian view of there's a golden mean to everything, right? Then you can see how bold can go too far and turn into arrogance. It can get people killed, right? It can get people hurt. And there, I think we start to play with the line between your authentic self of like, okay, well, I'm my authentic self. I'm confident and maybe sometimes arrogant. And we start to play with that line versus maybe you should cut some of that part off of you and think about what your reputation really should be. Do you want the reputation as the military general that gets a lot of people hurt, or the leader that tanks the company just because you were your authentic self? So it's this fine balance that we have to play, and I think it really does mirror the balance between identity and reputation. You can't have a reputation and identity that's so far detached from each other. I think that's, in my estimation, that's roughly the where you see some poor psychological health, right? If someone thinks they're an astronaut on the street and they're talking about rockets, but they don't have shoes on, that's a difference between identity and reputation, right? It's like, well, that person's not an astronaut. So happy
Yeah.
to clarify more. Yeah.
Yeah, no, excellent. And as you know, one of the former Hogan partners, Tomas Chamorro, just came out
Hmm.
with he was here on our Rethinking Work Series, Don't Be Yourself
Right.
book.
Yeah.
I think he's really digging into that tension that you pointed out. But as humans, we do care about our reputations, right?
Mhm.
And it's essentially a survival mechanism
Right.
that we cling to. In terms of um, the evolution of status, is that relationship to reputation changeable? Like, what do you see in your assessments? Because as I mentioned, I've taken multiple Hogan,
Hmm.
takes on my personality, and some of those are hardwired, but some of those may vary, right? How do you
Right.
see that evolution of their relationship between internal focus on the identity and external focus on reputation?
Yeah, I think they're definitely intertwined, right? And I think the shift in identity um, is one of the precursors to a long-term shift in reputation. I also firmly believe that you can shift your reputation enough, depending on what it is, right? You can shift your rep or what behavior you're looking to change. You can shift your reputation enough to get the job done, whatever that goal is, without necessarily shifting your identity. Easy example is I'm an extrovert, and sometimes I've needed to just kind of be quiet, right? Like not be the first to speak. And that's gotten me a better reputation of someone who's more humble and less of an attention seeker at Hogan, and that's been very effective. It's taken a lot of coaching, but my identity is still that I'm someone that's usually the first to speak, very proactive and such. Now, to your original question, we typically don't see changes on the Hogan assessments, and that's not just a Hogan statistic in terms of really high test retest reliability. It's sort of how we tell if there's changes. Um, but also we don't see this in academic psychological research in personality either. We see really high test retest reliability for all these five-factor model assessments, which is the core. Five-factor model is the core model for personality. So it's really exciting to think about this, right? Because we're in this space where we're looking at human nature. We're looking at these stable individual differences that people bring with them across time. The statistics say most people don't change those behavioral patterns. You say, okay, well, aren't we all in the business of kind of shifting those things a little bit? Maybe not changing someone's nature, but helping them adapt, helping them become a bigger bag of tricks. Well, yeah, we are. And what's really exciting is I will sometimes see I have seen a lot of profiles change over time, not just because of psychometric differences between different norms and stuff like that, but because of really concentrated work that they've done, maybe with a coach or with a therapist. Or I've seen situations where they've had a near-death experience or the death of a loved one or something like that, something really tragic that elicits a lot of emotion. And we'll see their nature sort of change based on those life events. It's not statistically likely to happen, but it can happen. So it sort of brings us to this balance of like, okay, it's not likely that you're going to change your reputation. Is it worth the fight? And I think a lot of people who get into coaching, who get into like any kind of behavioral change, ultimately say, yeah, it is worth the fight. I'm going to try to do this. I'm going to try to be a better person. I'm going to try to be more human, as you might say, right? So yeah, the difference is likely to be kind of slight, but over time, I think it can really shift.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you're bringing up coaching as a method for that
Yeah.
adjustment and fine-tuning your relationship with your reputation, because your identity based on Hogan obviously is sort of hardwired, right?
Hmm.
That reputational, it's like hard, um, the apps, I always compare it to the software hardware, right? That you kind of
Right.
have the hardware of identity and you have the software of reputation.
Hmm.
That's where the coaching comes in, kind of negotiating that difference. Um,
Right.
John, what I like about assessment, and especially Hogan assessment, is the precision of quantifying or measuring your personality. Something
Hmm.
that, especially in the age of technology, I think communicating who you are through those measures, and they're qualitative translated into quantitative, I think is really, really valuable. So when we talk about assessing the reputation, the worth of reputation, how do we measure the tangible impact of a leader's reputation on team engagement, on
Hmm.
bottom line result? How do we make that connection? Because anywhere in the business, and with the coaches on the call and people who are in the internal roles, we know that that's what the business comes to us for.
Hmm.
Show us how it makes a difference. Yeah.
Right.
So I know that Hogan, in fact, I used Hogan on Wall Street to show to my investment bankers that their personality matters,
Yeah.
because they would not respond to anything else.
Hmm.
They could see the data and they could react to it.
Right. Yeah, it's such a fun, that's a fun problem to solve as well. Is what's the ROI of these assessments, or what's the ROI of coaching? And ultimately the best answer, just to get to the punchline, is really a pre and post, as we see it, as a pre and post intervention 360, right? So you do an intervent, or you do a 360 assessment, and your direct reports say, hey, you're a really hard worker, we really respect that. Also, like anything, there's always a trade-off, right? Also, you drive us way too hard, you're too perfectionistic and nitpicky, and it's really tough to work for you, right? We respect you, but it's really hard to work for you. And let's say you get a rating on a 7-point scale of like a 3 in that area. Well, you do a coaching 6 to 12 month coaching intervention, working specifically on, in our case, like a diligence score on the Hogan Development Survey, the diligent derailer, and give it some time after the coaching, and then do a post coaching 360, and you might see that score tick up. Right now, what's tricky is there are certain roles like operations, or maybe HR or something like that, where it's a lot harder to sort of quantify, well, how much money we spent, 25, $30,000 on this engagement. And did we make that money back? Did we see $60,000 of more revenue or profit or something like that? So it's pretty tricky to sort of tell that. In other roles like sales, it's like, yeah, the sales manager was only making 100,000 in profit a year, and now he's making 200,000. Cool. Okay, the coaching helped. So we sort of have these indirect ways of looking at reputation through a pre and a post 360. But if you think about the a lot of the work that's been done on engagement, employee engagement in general, we see that more highly engaged employees I can't remember the exact amount. I think it's like 14%. They make like 14, 15%. They're 14, 15% more productive or something like that. Someone correct me in the chat if you know that literature, but they're more productive, and you can tie that to their salary. You can tie that to what it means in those cases to be more productive. So if we know that a leader who's derailing or is not managing their people well is leading to disengagement, you get them coaching, and now the team's more engaged. That's one metric that can assist with us understanding ROI. Where Hogan comes in this is that a 360 might cover, a few things that are very acute, that are very like in your face in terms of reputation. That's good. You need that. But Hogan also covers the motivations that are underlying those behaviors, and also covers some aspects that might not show up on a 360, that might be something that the leader is managing really well. Give you a quick example. A lot of times we'll see multiple high scores on these stress-induced derailing tendencies. We might see someone who's really high on excitable. They've got big emotional ups and downs. They're kind of like volatile, really passionate, like, yeah, come on, team, let's get this done. But also like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this happened, and we're so upset about this. They may be managing that to the detriment of managing another derailing tendency. They're so focused on not being volatile that they are now perfectionistic and hyper diligent. Well, the team sees the diligence. They don't see the volatility because they're managing that. So the Hogan plus the 360 can reveal both, and really give the coach the right information to assist them with that type of intervention. So I hope that explains what your question. Yeah.
Fascinating. I have so many questions. I know, John,
Yeah.
you have a couple of slides. If you want to show those, kind of to anchor the conversation, and then if we have remaining time, I will dive into other questions that I had for you.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I mean, I kind of have a whole presentation. I didn't know how much time I would have to dig into this. So I know a few of you on the line have seen me present before. I always tend to overdo it rather than underdo it. So we'll just kind of throw some quick thoughts out there, and I'll be speeding through this. You'll get the slides later. The big point is that reputation is really important, and I reject wholeheartedly what my parents and what many of my peers' parents told me, that you shouldn't care about what anyone thinks of you. I say, no, you should, but only key people, right? The cashier at your bank, you probably shouldn't care about what they think of you, but your direct reports, you should, right? Your peers, you should, right? So I reject that. Okay, the problem that we have, the sort of this fundamental problem that we have, is that if we have wrong ideas about people, first off, ideas have consequences. That's like one of the Hogan 101 things they teach you when you first get employed at Hogan. Ideas have consequences, okay? So your ideas about people have consequences on your actions and how you treat people. Also, with you as coaches, with you all as coaches, it has your ideas about people have an impact on the problems that you solve. And if you're solving the wrong problems, if those problems aren't matched up with reality, with what really is the problem, you solve the wrong problems. The original problems fester, they get worse, and people's lives are worse as a result, especially if you're dealing with leaders. There's so much influence that leaders have, right? So they really, you really need to make sure you're getting whatever problem that you're solving with those leaders, you need to make sure you're getting that right. So decisions, I know that a lot of times we work and we think in the realm of identity, but decisions are made based in the land of reputation, the realm of reputation. You can say you're a great salesperson, but you verify that with a reputational verification, your sales numbers, right? You can say you're a good leader, but you verify that through manager, peers, direct report ratings, right? So all consequential decisions are taking place in the realm of reputation. And Warren Buffett sums it up very easily, right? It takes 20 years to build a reputation, 5 minutes to destroy it. So a lot of times what I find myself doing in Hogan coaching and the other Hogan coaches, what I find them doing is helping manage those the behaviors that would be the things that destroy reputation. Okay, so the big takeaway that I want you to have is that reputation's a fundamental aspect to coach around. You really need to introduce that to your coaching. I have some practical ways in the later slides that we might be able to get to, but Dr. Tavis, please stop me whenever you have a question, whenever there's a question from the chat, something like that, because I'll
Yeah,
just
and I just
yeah
want to say that this applies to both coaches on the call and people who are just interested in leadership and improving their own management and leadership skills. Because, for example, as far as the Hogan assessment is concerned, the training, I find that training is not just for the coaches, for everyone. If you want to understand
yeah
personality, it's an incredible deep dive into the pillars of what constitutes personality, and it really helps you personally, John, um,
yeah.
in addition to helping others once you kind of master it. But for personal development, I very highly recommend.
Yeah, it's an interesting take. I've had some really cutting edge entrepreneurs take the Hogan certification training, and I asked one of them years ago. I said, why are you doing this? You're CEO of this company," and I said, "Because I want to learn more about people." And it does the certification. Yes, it teaches you how to use Hogan. You get to use Hogan after and all that, but like it really does teach you what we're doing at Hogan is we're providing you data on human nature. That's ultimately what we're doing, right? And the Hogan training is basically categorizing these really important aspects of human nature. So if you're interested in people and psychology, you want to take an affordable course for it. We've got one. What is it? June 12th and 13th. And I'll be teaching it. It'll actually probably be my last certification course that I'll teach until a long time.
Yeah, it
So,
will be that will
yeah,
be on our campus, right? That's
yep.
one the course we're doing with in partnership, and Renee just posted a link. Yep.
Awesome. Thanks, Renee. Yeah, so thanks for that plug. I love teaching it, and I like to throw as much information as I can in those sessions, just so you really take away some psychological axioms that I've learned over time, and people really like it. The core of this or of this reputational view comes from, like I said, socioanalytic theory. This is a personality theory. It's saying that personality is best understood through reputation rather than identity. We already sort of touched on that. It merges the evolutionary psychology, sociology, psychoanalysis, and the big argument, this is so cool, and I really hope this is one of the other major takeaways for you, that people are biologically driven to get along, to get ahead, and to create meaning. These are three biologically underpinned motivations, these meta motives that we're sort of our lives are nested within, that are always doing in some regard. We're always doing some version of this in nearly everything that we do. And so I don't know if we have time to dig into each of these, but or to dig into sort of the background of socioanalytic theory. But essentially, the premise is that our brains have evolved. The majority of the time that our brains have been evolving have been in hunter-gatherer settings, right? 160 to 120 member tribes, across different areas of land. And these tribes all had a hierarchy. And these tribes, if you were isolated, you just died. Like that's just what happened, right? There is no human Homo sapien Neanderthal species that existed in isolation. We don't see that in the animal kingdom either, right? We don't see that with the great apes, the chimps and bonobos and gorillas. We see them all in a troop, in a pack, right? There's always a hierarchy, and there's always some vying for status, right? The getting ahead meta motive. There's always some vying for getting along. We see these behaviors in great apes, except for orangutans, by the way. I don't know if anyone knew that. They're all alone. But humans, what makes it the creating meaning piece, what that is the religious instinct. That there's, you call it superstition if you're more agnostic, but there is a religious instinct in nearly every culture, I think in all cultures. And that's the creating meaning piece. So what socioanalytic theory is drawing from is this evolutionary psychology that says our brains have evolved in this world, and the modern world is just a little sliver of time that has not really shifted our thinking beyond this sort of this new, or excuse me, it hasn't shifted our thinking and our nature beyond what our existence was as a hunter-gatherer. So you could say organizations are just these big tribes, and we're in still nested in this hierarchy, trying to get along, trying to get ahead, and trying to create meaning. This has been a super fundamental um, theory that I've been able to apply in all of my coaching and all of my interactions with people, in my interactions with coaches, and it's really helped a lot of people. So I urge you to consider this, read a little bit more about it, and think about applying these to your coaching and to your leadership. So that's kind of a covering there. Um, so we've talked about personality already. There's the identity view and the reputational view, but reputation is really the one that predicts behavior. The logic kind of works like this, if you can kind of go with me here. So the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior, right? The other people's accounting of your past behavior is your reputation. That's a higher sample size than what you say is your past behavior, right? It's more reliable too, because you can lie about things, you can have a distorted view of things, but then other people seeing you behave in one way or another, there's more of them and it's verifiable, right? So if the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior, if the group accounting of your past behavior is reputation, then reputation is the best predictor of future behavior. That's the way that sort of comes together like that. You with me so far? Yeah. Okay. Okay. So the punchline, right, is like people have these common motives, and that behavior and effectiveness are better understood through the lens of reputation. I've got a few more slides here that sort of double click on these points. I'd love to pause for questions if there are any from the chat. I don't have my screen set up to see that yet, but yeah, just curious.
I'm just thinking, if we could think about how AI is beginning to intersect here and what
Hmm.
will the impact, because we keep talking about keeping the human in the loop.
Right.
And I would be, if you go to the previous slide for a
Yep.
minute, there, I love this, getting along, getting ahead, and creating meaning. It's really interesting to see the disruption. We know already that social media was trying to, came in to create that getting along, that kind of, at least that was the premise.
Hmm.
But it triggered a whole, a sequence of consequences
Right.
where getting ahead or creating that inflated, status, inflated
Hmm.
status through jiggering through this social network, and maybe appealing to certain instincts in the humans, and then created a totally different meaning if we were to be there together. That's social media.
Yeah.
I don't know if at Hogan you're thinking hard about this new agent that's coming in and interfering with this sequence.
Yeah, it's I think what often gets ignored is personality. We don't do a good job at like networking and marketing ourselves too much. Not just Hogan, but personality psychologists in general, I feel like. I mean, there's been some prominent ones, but they're not always talking about personality in their discussion of politics and culture and whatnot. And just personally, I can't shut it off. Like I'm always thinking about individual differences. So what I think about when I run into, a ChatGPT or a Gronk or whatever, like whatever LLM you're using, is I think about, okay, well, where are the individual differences in the output? You're starting to see some of that in like training your output to be more direct or shorter, or less long-winded and whatnot. And people are certainly using it in these different ways, right? Getting along, getting ahead, creating meaning. But it's like artificial water and I'm making this up kind of on the spot just because this is an impromptu
Okay.
talk, but like it's like artificial water to a fish. It's not real water, right? It's not, our brains are nested, our brains like fish in water are nested within these this way of thinking and these values that aren't going to go away for, you could say, I mean, just conservatively, another 100,000 years. I mean, agriculture is like what? Like the city state in general is like 10, 11,000 years old. And, modernity since the Industrial Revolution is like 200 years old, right? So it's like the internet's nothing, right? It's nothing compared to like our history of how much like baggage and weight there is to these types of motives in our evolutionary history as hunter-gatherers. So like you can see sort of these bastardized versions of getting along where like you'll find, people talking to Chat GPT as like a boyfriend or girlfriend. And then they're super depressed, but afterwards when it updates and it no longer tracks their history or something like that, right? But they're just stand-ins for real human connection in that regard. Same with getting ahead, right? Here, this is what you should do with your boss if you want to ask for a raise. And it's like that's general advice, that's cool, but like there's 100 other things that you're missing in regards to this. Same with creating meaning, right? We can use some examples there, but I think the point that I want to get to is like we were really scared. I remember going to the NYU Coaching and Tech Summit 2 years ago, and we were pretty scared about like, ooh, what's going to happen? What's going to happen to coaching? Last year, there wasn't as much fear. Now I'm like, okay, this is an aid. I mean, we've all heard this before, right? It's like this is an aid, and people who are not using AI are probably going to fall behind than from people who are using it. But I still don't think that I don't think AI substitutes for another human being listening to another human being, making eye contact with them, reaching a hand out, touching them, and that just does completely different things than a computer or even like a really sophisticated Android with real like human skin can really do. You know it's fake. You know it's not real. And that's what's so interesting about these sci-fi situations where like Blade Runner and whatnot is like, well, what do you do if they are an android? It's like it's not real. You know it's not real. That's why it's a problem. So I think instinctually we know it's a problem, but we also I think instinctually know it won't really be replaced. It's just going to be disrupted for a while. That's my take on it.
Yeah. And my take, in addition to everything you said, is that it's actually going to send people to uh, more curiosity, more
Mm,
engagement with who we are as humans, because there will
yes,
be the other, there will be an alternative to being a human, and that's going to kind of be a mirror to what makes us unique. And I think we're going to see a much more humanized, at least on the better side of the solution for this, a
I
lot more
agree.
awareness, a lot more interest, and a lot more engagement,
Hmm.
because we will have this synthetic alternative that most people will choose not to follow. It's like with junk
Yeah.
food, like junk food, when it shows up, and we know it with developing markets, when McDonald's pop up, everyone rushes
Hmm.
there as a curiosity, and then everyone back to the earth, right? And get to the green
Right.
market and get the organic food and back to land kind of movement. And I think we're going to see the same thing.
I agree with that. That's the first time I've heard that, and I absolutely resonate with it. And I'm seeing it. I don't have stats for this, but I'm seeing this in different forms. Like definitely in terms of like what you said about food. Wanting to move to more organic, wanting to move to back to earth, something more real that's not as synthetic. I'm also seeing this with like alcohol and such of people being like, I don't like this is tough on me, I don't know if I want to do this. So it
Yeah.
seems like there's these generational shifts that like a whole generation, like our parents or something, will experiment with something and are like, oh, it went okay for some people, it had no effect on others, and then it really was bad for others. And it just sort of cycles through these generations. And I think AI is in the same boat. You're going to have the lost boys, who have the AI girlfriends, and that's sad, but like I have to think they'll come out of it eventually because the other parts of their brain will kick on and say, okay, let's maybe go brave the world and talk to some people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for
Yeah.
this insight.
Okay, should we check the chat
Yes.
and see
Yes.
others?
Let's
So
see. I think everyone is listening. Um, as Yeah, the people are asking if there are small or less expensive training. I mean, the one thing about Hogan is it's really worth every
mhm,
dollar you spend on it, truly. And it also is very much in demand in the market. This is market determined, and actually, NYU training is actually less expensive
yeah.
than if you were to just sign up on a regular market. But it is top line assessment
Mhm.
training. Yeah.
It is, and it's I mean 75% of Fortune 500 companies are using Hogan in some capacity. I mean, we've got I mean, hundreds of thousands of people using it worldwide. People may not know it as well as like an MBTI or a DISC or like a Strengths Finder, but over time, what we're seeing is that those are decreasing in popularity with pretty serious work, and people are running to Hogan. So we've seen incredible growth over the past 5 years, really over the past 10 years too, but for sure over the past five since COVID. And people need to do serious work. There's a lot of serious problems that people are dealing with that are not just because they're soft skills that, you don't consider those unserious. Like soft skill problems will lead to hard problems and people get hurt. Um, lives get damaged and we've got really, I mean, in our opinion, the best data that you can have about the workplace, about people in the workplace rather. So we don't have shorter trainings. That's like one of the agenda items, kind of secret agenda items. That's not so secret anymore. That I want to work on as sort of like a managerial training. But as I said before, too, the certification courses have been taken by leaders to specifically for learning more about people. And let me tell you, I mean, I have not had a leader that I've debriefed on the Hogan assessment, and I've done thousands of them, that have not come away with like big wow insights like, oh my gosh, that's a total blind spot for me. Like this is leading to this problem. So it's very, very effective. Even just learning about the assessment data. Yeah.
Another question, John, if people just want to get assessments of themselves
Hmm.
to get the data, it has to be done through a certified coach, right?
Right, right.
How do people go about it?
Yeah, there's a few ways, right? So you can email Hogan, you can email me. I can get you linked up with our team. Like I said, we've got thousands of really great coaches. I can get you hooked up with some people. I mean, there's some people on in the chat themselves who I know are Hogan certified, who I certified, right? That you can talk with too. And I don't know if this is a faux pas, right? But if you're certified, you can put your email in there and people can email you and they can buy the assessment for you and debrief you. Hogan's looking at in a standard Hogan, they're looking at 154 different variables. So it's not really something you tackle on your own. And there's some other serious psychological assessments are like that too, like the MMPI and IQ test, the California Personality Inventory. These are a 360. You don't do these things by yourself. Like it's a really serious thing, but many people say it's life changing. So I do encourage you to do it. It's great. Basically, what would happen is we'd send you a link for the assessments, 45 minutes to take the assessments, and we'd get you hooked up with a coach that's certified.
Edward is asking if he's interested in enrolling in the June certification. How can and he's never taken the assessment, so is
Mhm.
there a way to get a preview of the assessment before enrolling?
Absolutely. We do a variety of ways we can do that. We can do a sample report just so you can kind of see what information we're looking at. That's cool. You can take the assessments that will have to come with a debrief. I'm not in charge of the commercial teams anymore, so I don't know if they're billing for that or whatnot. But you do take the assessments as part of the certification program, and you'll get a debrief as part of the certification program, and you'll receive some ways to like have some practice sessions as well afterwards that you can use with friends and family too. So you'll get to have that, but yeah, typically, I mean, in every case, people take the assessments before they enroll, or excuse me, before they take the course itself.
And Denise is basically asking about the follow-up. So how do you actually help leaders when there is sort of a disconnect between how
Hmm.
they see themselves and what their reputation is? That's the
Yeah.
basic kind of coaching challenge, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's super super fun to look at there because um people often, I mean, no one nobody wakes up and is like, I want to be a bad leader today. Like, I want to alienate my talent and like cause attrition. Like, no one does that. Everyone's actually trying. Sometimes they're not, right? But like for the most part, leaders in senior positions are actually trying. So what we do is we typically we'll identify some areas. Everyone's got some area that has some kind of trade-off that's causing probably some kind of problem, right? That they can work on. So typically what we're doing is we're identifying those areas and we're saying, look, what you're doing is this, and it's really great. That's awesome. You know, you're calm, cool, and collected. You can handle stress really well. You're not on doing what the people on the other end are doing, which is like freaking out over small things. You're not really, fearful or angry all the time. That's awesome. Good job. Also, sometimes what can also happen is people who score like you are described by others as coming off as aloof, right? They seem like they're a little bit less connected than others to the negative emotions of other people. So we introduce these things in the assessments, and then, like good coaches and consultants do, we sit with the data and sit with them as they explore that. We're never telling someone this is your problem. We don't do that. We can look, and if they say, well, what can I work on? We might say, you've got a lot of big ideas. Sometimes probably need to vet those ideas. But then it's always a discussion. That's why you can't just like read the data on your own assessments and say, oh, well, that's my problem. Like you want to discuss it with somebody. You want it to be a communal type of event. Talk with your spouse about it. Talk with your friends about it. So oftentimes we're identifying like, okay, here's a strength and here's a development opportunity with this particular characteristic. Let's cross-reference that with your situation. Is this causing problems or not? Or is this actually a superpower for you? If it's causing problems, now let's go through the thought partnership of figuring out what we can do about it. Every intervention's different. There's some stock standard things that we start with, like perfectionism, try to loosen up what it means to be perfect. There's stuff like that. But it all comes down to something really bespoke. The interventions tend to be very, very bespoke for the person because it's based on their context and it's based on their own differences and their own life story and lived experiences and stuff. So that's kind of the rough process. I'm happy to get into specifics if we want to there.
Yeah, and there is obviously coaching associated with that because this
Right.
assessment is the beginning of the process and connecting between, how you see yourself. And I love this slide. It's so clear because that happens several times a day
Right.
with
Yeah,
us
exactly.
humans. And I think just becoming aware is the first step toward the change.
Right. Absolutely.
All right, this is so fascinating. I'm tempted to take the assessment again. So if we could take, yeah, if we could take get to the takeaways and
Sure.
kind of get to the closing here, that will be great.
Yeah, absolutely. So big takeaways that I can see, and this again, just as Dr. Davis said, this applies to you as a leader, also to you as a coach. Consider these meta motives from socioanalytic theory, the getting along, getting ahead, creating meaning. Consider them all the time. They're always working. They're always active. It's kind of like your breathing instinct, right? It's like you don't have to think about breathing. You don't have to think about your like getting along so much. It's not really like that salient for you. It's just happening. You're always doing it in your own individual different way, right? And that's based on your personality. Big coaching takeaway that I can say is have a definition for leadership as well. It's like so weirdly fundamental, but like it gets missed like crazy. Um, a lot of people don't have a definition of leadership. They think it's just positional. Like, oh, I'm the leader. It's like, okay, what's the verb there? Like, what are you doing? Our definition is building and maintaining effective teams. I have not found a place where that leadership definition does not apply regardless of if it's work. Like I'm a father as well. I've been a leader on my collegiate rugby team, a leader in different things that I've done, like extracurriculars and stuff. And it always applies. You're always building and maintaining effective teams. You have to know what effectiveness is. Okay. So baked into that definition is a lot of depth there. And that comes from our definition of leadership. The other thing is don't coach identity and intention alone. You sort of know this instinctively, like, oh, well, my intention was to be really nice to Susie, but it's like actually you came off as condescending and pandering. It's like, okay, yeah. So don't just coach intention alone, right? Coach reputation too. Great way to do this. You probably already know this, but a great way to do this is to use 360s. And if you're doing really serious work, it's assessments and 360s. Hogan, obviously, we would say use Hogan. Any five-factor model personality assessment is largely better than most other personality assessments because the five factor model is the academically accepted model for this. But assessments in 360 work, there's really nowhere for bad behavior to hide. And then finally, consider effectiveness through the eyes of knowledgeable direct reports. This is a big one too. This is a shift that Hogan has made in my eyes, that my effectiveness should not only be considered or primarily be considered by the person giving me the promotion, by my manager. If they like me, they're going to ignore some bad behavior that I'm engaged in. My team not just has to like me, but they have to see that I'm effective. They have to see that I'm getting the job done, that I'm not alienating talent, right? So that's a little shift there too. So reputation's important. Have a definition of leadership, and try to understand effectiveness through knowledgeable direct reports. Reputation's really the big takeaway. Have to consider that. What is this person's reputation? There's some slides in here just to kind of cue you on this. There's some slides in here around like role identity and agenda and things like that you can kind of follow if you want to. But yeah, that's that.
Yeah.
That's what I have to say about that.
Just one more question to the
Sure.
slide on the coaching. What
Mhm.
about the role of manager? The person I directly report to.
hmm The role of manager is obviously important, right? Especially if they're in a mentorship capacity. I mean, we consider someone who's one of the fundamental aspects of leadership is competence, right? And so if you're a sales manager, it's expected that you would be also a good salesperson. So if I'm a salesperson and you're a sales manager, like I want to have some kind of obviously rapport with you, but I want to be looking to you in a mentorship capacity to understand if I'm being effective as a salesperson. Obviously, there's corruption involved in a lot of promotions and stuff sometimes, so the competence isn't always there. But this is where we start to draw out leader like effectiveness versus emergence. Um, Very quickly on that, you can be effective, you can not be emergent. Emergent is like coming off as, ready to be promoted, ready to move on to the next level. The overlap between the types of people who are effective as employees and emergent as leaders or emergent as like to move up, that overlap is very, very small, right? There's typically one or the other. You got the networker who's like, hey, promote me, boss. Don't you like me? And then the person who's actually there, like getting the work done. The advice is if you're one of the hard workers, the Clydesdale horses that are just there, like working, manage up a little bit, try to get some coaching around that. Talk to some people, try to understand what your manager is about. Their opinion obviously does matter. If they don't like you, you're fired, right? So yeah, it's not inconsequential, but if you're really looking at leadership effectiveness, we would want to look at direct reports.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
John, this was a race through psychology, socioanalytic theory, identity, reputation, but we've all learned so much. And I can't wait to have you here in New York in June, both for the certification as well as our conference here. And we're closing. In my team, if you could put up the upcoming events. We're going to have a couple more Rethinking Work Series sessions with the companies that are going to be presenting at our conference on June 15, 16. But at this point, I just want to thank John so much. And we're going to miss you. I don't know how an extrovert like yourself is going to be working in the background. We got to bring you out.
Yes,
Yes.
just talking to myself. So,
Yeah, exactly, exactly. All right. Thank you so much, everyone,
okay.
and we'll see you next week. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks, everyone.